Hello friends, welcome to Technique. This is Nirmal here, and in this video we're going to do the camera review of the new Huawei P20 Lite. So Huawei P20 Lite is the latest smartphone under the Huawei series in India. So Huawei's Honor series has been quite popular in India, but they don't have too many devices under the Huawei's branding. So the last one was the P9, and now we have the P20 Pro and the P20 Lite. So similar to the Honor devices, the P20 Lite is also a camera-centric smartphone wherein we have a dual camera setup and a really good selfie camera as well. So this device also comes with a Kirin 659 octa-core chipset, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and a 5.84-inch Full HD plus resolution display. So that was hardware specifications at a glance, and now we'll have a look at the camera of the Huawei P20 Lite. So this device comes with a rear dual camera setup. So this has a 16 megapixel primary camera and a 2 megapixel secondary camera with f-stop 2.2 aperture and an LED flash. So the camera setup is quite similar to what we have seen on the Honor 7X and also the Honor 9i. So that was the rear camera on the Huawei P20 Lite. Now talking about the front camera. So this device comes with a 16 megapixel camera worldwide, and in India this comes with a 24 megapixel camera. So the company has opted for a bigger 24 megapixel sensor for the Indian market when compared to the 16 megapixel worldwide. So now let's go straight into the camera interface of the Huawei P20 Lite. So opening up the camera interface, you can see this is the typical interface we have seen on all the Honor smartphones in India. Swiping from the left side, you can see the plethora of modes included: HDR, a night shot, panorama, light, painting, and pro mode for both photo and video. And if you just swipe from here, you can see the option to set the camera resolution, and there is also support for full HD video recording on this device. So there is no support for 4K. Instead, the maximum resolution for the video recording is at 1080p, that's full HD. And on the left side we have this option of portrait shots as well as wide aperture mode. So wide aperture, you can change the aperture values from f-stop 16 to f-stop 0.95, and based on that you can get the bokehs you want. So that's wide aperture, and there is also portrait mode included wherein you can add bokehs and beauty mode. Now the 24 megapixel selfie camera also comes with the bokeh mode, or rather the portrait mode, where you can take some portrait selfies. So that's the camera interface of the Huawei P20 Lite. So now let's have a look at the daylight captures taken with the Huawei P20 Lite. So looking at the daylight captures taken with the Huawei P20 Lite, you can see that there is definitely a good clarity and detailing in the photos. Although the device has a similar camera setup as that the Honor 9i, the camera quality looks much better here. On the 9i we had the issue of oversaturation and the sharpness levels was not that great. But with the P20 Lite with the 16 and 2 megapixel camera combination, it does a really good job here, and the color reproduction is pretty good, and the details are really good, and the dynamic range also looks pretty good. So overall we feel the quality of the rear camera in daylight conditions was pretty spot on, and overall it looked pretty good, and there is no saturation issues on the Huawei P20 Lite. So that's something really good Huawei has worked on in the camera department. So overall the daylight conditions, the P20 Lite performed pretty well. Now looking at the close-up images taken with this device, here again we feel the quality of the images looks really good. You can see that the color reproduction and also the details are pronounced on the close-up images, and overall the clarity looked pretty good. Also the focusing was really good on this device. So no major issues in the daylight conditions. So overall we are pretty happy with what is being offered by the P20 Lite in terms of the daylight conditions. So it's a really worthy contender to compare with the Xiaomi's Redmi Note 5 Pro in terms of the rear camera performance. Now looking at the portrait samples, so this is one area again the P20 Lite has improved and looks pretty good overall, but at times the edge detection was a bit too artificial and over sharpened. So the edge detection needs to be a bit more refined, but otherwise it is quite a good performer in terms of the portrait conditions as well. Now next up, let's have a look at the low light conditions. So when we reviewed the Honor 9i, one thing what we noticed was the low light performance was pretty much average, but with the P20 Lite the cameras has improved, and you can see that there is good amount of detailing and noise levels are reduced, and overall clarity looks quite good. Although the brightness levels in the photos are a bit on the lower side, but it's still an acceptable overall performer in low light conditions. In extreme low light conditions, you can see noise creeping in, and at that time you can enable the HDR mode to get a bit more brighter and less noisier images. So overall we are quite happy with the low light performance, but it still can be improved a bit considering that Huawei is known for great cameras, and A bit more optimization would have done the camera better in terms of low light performance. So that was the low light performance of the Huawei P20 Lite. Now looking at the video recording, so this is one area it didn't disappoint that much, but the quality is quite good, but lack of electronic image stabilization or optical image stabilization is definitely one thing what is not expected from a phone in this price segment, because a lot of devices are now offering electronic image stabilization even in the sub 20k price segment. So electronic image stabilization could have done better with the video recording on this device, but nevertheless the video recording looked quite okay, good details and good sharpness levels along with the color reproduction looked pretty good. Now looking at the selfie camera, so for the Indian market, Huawei has done a bit more work and produced a 24 megapixel shooter, and you can see that 24 megapixel shooter does a really good job with the selfies, and the details are pretty much pronounced, and overall the selfie quality looks really good, and overall the clarity of the selfies are at par with other smartphones in this price segment. Now in low light conditions also the selfies performed really well, and this device also comes with the bokeh mode or the portrait mode for selfies. While it did a good job with background blurring, but the edge detection needs a bit more fine tuning, because at times the edges were blurred and it was not able to detect the edges properly. But overall for a price segment, we feel this does a decent job altogether in terms of the bokeh shots for selfies. So that is the selfie camera of the Huawei P20 Lite. So this is the front facing camera sample taken using the Huawei P20 Lite. So this is capable of recording videos in full HD, that's 1080p resolution, again capable of taking some really good selfie samples. So you can judge yourself how good the clarity of the video is from the Huawei P20 Lite, and how good the audio recording is on this device. So overall summing up, how good is the P20 Lite in terms of the camera performance? So we feel it's definitely an improvement over the Honor 9i, which did not have that great camera, although it was quite an acceptable camera, but there were lots of shortcomings, including higher saturation levels, low light performance was pretty much average, and even with a dual camera setup on the front panel, the 9i was not that great in terms of the selfies. But with the P20 Lite, the Huawei has improved a lot in terms of the camera performance, and it definitely is a good camera in this price segment, and a worthy contender to the Xiaomi's Redmi Note 5 Pro. Although the pricing is not same, but it still is a good camera smartphone in this price segment. But there are some areas to improve, especially the portrait samples where the edge detection was not that accurate, and also the portrait selfies where it could be improved, and also EIS is something which is missing on this camera. So that was a camera review of the Huawei's P20 Lite. So hope you enjoyed watching this video. Do hit that like button and also hit the red subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in our next video. Have a great day.